Journalism is under attack like never before.
No, there's been tear gas fired.
You have to have the facts.
Beautiful but tragic.
Because people are doubting everything.
You're the only way of telling their story.
How would you describe this outbreak?
Something like an apocalypse.
You're going to be really tired. You're going to be really scared.
It's too dangerous here. Anyone who says they're not scared is lying. Anything can happen.
Did you get hurt? I sometimes wonder, how have we managed to get out of this?
People being killed.
We do genuinely believe in what we do.
You clearly want to press.
To show the truth.
Wow, this is absolutely unbelievable.
To uncover an injustice.
This is the result of ethnic cleansing.
I don't think any journalist wants anything more than that. I'm Alex Crawford.
I'm Stuart Ramsey.
And this is Hotspots.
The most important story future generations of journalists will work on is the environment.
So hot. Within seconds, it was at my legs.
Fires, they don't just destroy trees, they destroy habitats.
They've just found the jaguar.
Now, the leaders of the G7 nations are being urged to put the Amazon rainforest top of their agenda when they meet tomorrow. France's President Emmanuel Macron is leading the calls and has declared the forest fires raging through the Amazon an international crisis.
2019 saw the worst increase in fires in the Amazon for decades. All the indicators were that these fires were up and running again, and yet it wasn't really being reported. The Amazon fires are sometimes started by humans because of ranching and clearing the forest to make ranches, but also because the temperature is increasing so much. The rainforest shouldn't go on fire. It's just too wet. If it's getting hotter and hotter, then it is going on fire and is being destroyed forever.
Nossa floresta é úmida e não permite a propagação do fogo em seu interior.
The Amazon being on fire is in itself an incredibly important story, but to be completely denied made it slightly different as a story. They were saying it simply wasn't true, and we wanted to prove them wrong.
A gringada, eu quero que venha para cá para andar na Amazônia, para ver que aquele trem não pega fogo. É uma mentira o que fala sobre a Amazônia.
Everyone says it, and so for me to say it again, you know, it just seems like empty words, but the environment and the climate is one of the most important stories of my generation, of generations to come.
I think they're the most important stories we do, bar none. Brazil's a big country, and you know, we had to do a lot of travelling to get to the Amazon. We obviously flew from the UK to Sao Paulo, then we had to fly internally.
It's difficult to get into your mind just how massive it is. You know, long flights on jets, and you've hardly moved anywhere on the map.
I am sending our driver and car information to the news desk.
But this is going by road.
This is all going by road, yeah. And then we're going to charter so that we can get a view of the fires from the air. And then your work begins, Stuart. We had a small aircraft that we were going to take to get to São Félix de Jingo, which is, it was about a 10 or 12 hour drive from where we were.
The view is quite staggering, but perhaps more than anything, staggering because of the amount of rainforest that's been cut down. Staggering amount of farms that you see, literally as far as the eye can see, which should not be there. And then staggering because of the trees just basically breaking out on fire.
Marcia is a trusted friend, and she's a fantastic journalist in her own right. We have a very similar idea of how to communicate and how to produce.
So all these areas, big area, that's where the fire will concentrate, you know?
Right, so that's the fire, the heart of it.
Yeah.
It was impressive and it was sad at the same time. Further to that, I had a great little adventure because the pilot let me fly the plane.
I sort of like heard this shuffling about up front, and I was like, what? And then, Stuart turned round. At that point, what are you going to do?
What's happening?
Literally flying the plane. That's how you don't like.
I did look back, and Stuart was looking a bit green round the gills.
I didn't feel very good about it at all, to be frank. As we sort of started, I'm not sure the word is, I wouldn't say dive, but drifting to the left and right was quite upsetting.
And you can see the Amazon, it was just fantastic.
Thank you there.
Cameraman, pilot, brilliant.
We wanted to travel to São Félix de Xingu because it was the base location of the firefighters who were fighting fires in the Amazon rainforest for that particular state.
She's gear back.
Marcia had said there's only 5, and we're like, yeah, okay, really? It's like, no, but maybe 5 in one group or 5 in one section. She's like, no, there are 5. 5, fighting fires in an area we worked out to be larger than Scotland.
I'm not so certain if it does indicate a lack of real seriousness and government commitment to fighting the fires in the Amazon, because the fire brigade operate out of a creche.
Hola.
And so their gear and their one truck is parked up, and of course all their firemen's clothes and socks and pants drying in the sun, etc. And it looked pretty miserable. Anyway, that's what we were talking about, the G7 today. Professional firemen, they're not from the region, they've been brought in to tackle these so-called non-fires, and their job is, it's simply hopeless. I think we must have driven for 5 or 6 hours. And sure enough, in the distance, you could see smoke. We got nearer and nearer, and we could see that this was a big, big blaze. And they pulled over, came out with all their gear on, and we were then right at it.
The tools the firemen had to fight these fires were frankly pathetic. They had fire beaters, and they had a couple of these water packs that go on their back with a sort of a pump attachment at the front, like something you would use in your garden. And that was it. The cows were running, and the firemen were trying to get them away from the fire so they would be protected, and I was filming something else.
Stuart, over here. He's about to miss a brilliant sequence. Richard needs to keep an eye on this guy. He's trying to force the cattle out.
Dominique seemed to particularly want that shot.
When we know the fires are driven by deforestation, which is driven by cattle farming, I just thought, what a perfect sort of example of all those things in one.
She made it fairly clear that she wasn't that impressed with me at the time.
And I think I made my opinion known.
I spent the next sort of half hour sprinting up and down these hills trying to make up for it.
Don't get them off that. I'm going.
Sky had provided us with these kind of fireman Sam outfits. Big, thick, heavy cotton on top of your normal clothes and in that heat. And remember, we had only been in country a couple of days, so there'd been no opportunity to acclimatise at all. And I couldn't get any air in whatsoever.
You take that off, and suddenly you're right in the smoke.
Oh, completely sorry.
I got a lung full of smoke, and that clearly affected me.
Okay.
And so I started to really overheat and struggle to breathe.
I might need a minute, please.
And I have to admit there were a couple of, sharp moments with my colleagues.
Okay, I'm very sorry. Would everyone mind please getting out of my way so I can get the shot that everybody wants? It's not the end of the world.
My hands were tingling, my peripheral vision had started to go a little bit foggy.
You start making really bad decisions because you're exhausted.
I was well aware that this was happening to me, and also the fact that you start getting snappy with people around you. That is one of the telltale signs of heat exhaustion. So we had to take a little time out, a little break there to let me recover and get my breath back.
There is a kind of unseen danger about fires because they move so rapidly and they can change direction. Of course, the closer you get, the more you actually see the colors of the fires, the red, orange flames. And then everywhere you look, just thick black smog from all the smoke.
In front of us was this incredibly fast-moving sheet of fire that would move at the speed of the wind.
Within seconds, it was, virtually at my legs.
Just have to keep watching, can't lose concentration.
It's hot, man.
The flames catch up on you really quickly.
That came back really quick, yeah.
So it's coming at us really fast now. It's not out of control, but the trees were drawn so hot. And it's just burning out the trees. You can see there's nothing behind it, there's a huge forest out there as well. The wind is up, it's really dangerous. Really dangerous, in fact.
Does this happen often? Is this most years?
Não. Eu tô aqui desde 2009. Que ela queimou toda, mas não foi bem toda, foi só um ano. Os outros anos a gente sempre consegue apagar. Só que todo ano dá uma chuva, duas, meio de julho, essa época já era para estar chovendo. E esse ano não deu. E esse ano, até agora, aqui não choveu ainda. Seco, né? Seco.
It was his land. I mean, he explained that the fire had started about 3 or 4 days before. That he and the guys that he employs had been attempting to control the fires, but each time they got it under control, or at least stopped its spread, and as soon as the temperatures got going again, it would flare up. The professionalism of the firemen is remarkable. They're taking on these fires, just trying to beat them down, and they are quite impressive and they're quite effective. They can actually stop the fires spreading through just pure physical hard work. But as soon as the winds get up, or as soon as the temperature rises, these fires just start again. You wonder, what is the point?
It's really difficult to explain to anybody just how vast the Amazon is. It's huge, and these trees that are centuries old are so high and so tall, it's impossible to get a sense of scale from the ground. The drone is an absolutely essential tool in that environment. As soon as it went up, it was mind-blowing. I'd go as far as saying they were, some of the most impactful pictures that I've ever shot. I knew they were really good. I knew they were really powerful. Bringing the drone back, it basically dropped out of the sky and we lost the drone. Gutted, because I knew what was on there, but I was absolutely devastated.
We searched for the drone, we couldn't find the drone.
I didn't sleep much that night. I was absolutely devastated about those pictures being out there somewhere.
The next day we were going back to the same area, and while Richie and Stuart went off to film a bit more with the firefighters in a different area of the forest, Marcy and I went to where we were the previous evening.
Pode ir.
Yay!
Pequenininho demais. Fica maior.
Ah, fantastic. While we were searching for the drone, we came across this flattened piece of plastic metal, which was grey, white, the same colour as the drone. But I took a picture of it in case we didn't find the drone.
You know, I come out of the trees and I'm full of hope and expectation.
I thought, I'm just going to play a little joke on Richie. And
Marcia shows me a photo of this thing that was sort of drone-shaped but completely melted on the ground. And I was almost in tears.
Yeah, ta-da, showed him the drone.
And there was Darren, the drone, and all safe and well, and so were the pictures, and I just can't explain the relief.
Happy, Richie?
Blended in with the burnt.
Gits. I'm ecstatic, I am, honestly, very relieved. My kids called him Darren when I first got him, and so that's it. Darren, he's been ever since. But once you attach a name to something, knowing that Darren was out there on his own in the Amazon all night, you know, it was a tough one. I was worried about him.
I felt happy that I found the drone because I felt like it was like a little makeup present over the cattle.
Well, the firemen, they're going to need reinforcements. This is hopeless. There's 10 fires that we've seen in there, and then there's this one. Absolutely vast. Whole side of the mountain is gone. It's on fire on the other side. There's just not enough firepower here. These guys, 5 of them, can't take on this number of fires. It's incredible.
We're going to go back to Sao Paulo and Homer. We've had a bit of a change of plan. We really thought that that was probably the end of our trip, and we were going to slowly make our way back to Sao Paulo to then head back to the UK, or maybe even onwards. This largest wetlands in the world, sort of in the center of Brazil. So it's not part of the Amazon, it's its own thing, but it's on fire. Lots of animals. We feel if we've come this far, we may as well go and do that story as well.
It's another huge journey and long drive to get to the Pantanal. I think that whole trip is like 10 hours. And then we've got a flight to Brasilia and then a flight from Brasilia onwards to our next destination. It is huge, this place, huge. Last time I was here, of course, I was getting on my own plane. The fires had been going for a while, but this was now much more about trying to look towards rebuilding and to looking after animals that have been hurt.
We saw the volume of animals that were being brought in. I mean, we were there for about half an hour or 40 minutes. And the door kept opening with a new animal that had been injured.
And then finally a baby otter. Show stealer of all show stealers. This is possibly the cutest animal you'll ever see.
We headed off on a boat with these vets to try and look for jaguars. Over the previous couple of days, they had seen a wounded jaguar down near the water's edge.
We headed off in this incredible smoky atmosphere.
Jaguars are one of the most elusive creatures on Earth, and frankly, in the back of my mind, I never thought we were going to see one in a month of Sundays.
They were worried that if there were too many boats and people around, that the jaguar would get spooked and go deeper into the forest.
They wanted to dart it and then examine it.
So we stayed back for a little while and waited for the right moment.
They've just found the jaguar. We're heading upriver to see if we can catch up with the vets. They're going to try and go ashore and see how injured it is.
Never in my wildest dreams did I think I was going to get as close as I did. This jaguar, probably 8 foot tail to nose, was lying there, you know, growling, grunting.
It's a young one.
My camera was sort of 8 inches from his nose, and just hairs were up on the back of my neck, and this magnificent creature.
But the good news is the jaguar actually been hunting and is feeding. One of the plans was maybe to have to remove him, but they don't have to, so he's going to be given medicine, and then eventually he'll come around.
We're gonna leave him, he's gonna be alive and fine.
Great.
Yeah.
They then gave it antidote. Everybody lifted it up and moved it into the forest. They didn't want it when it was drowsy, accidentally walking into the river and getting itself into trouble.
That's when Stuart and I and some of the vets and team went back to the boat, just in case it woke up quicker than they thought, while Richie stayed with the vets.
I was statue-like, filming this, incredible creature slowly waking up and becoming more lucid and getting itself together. Wow. That was amazing. He started to wake up. Like looking right at me. That's us. It's just amazing.
Fires, they don't just destroy trees, they destroy habitats.
How does it look since your last time you were here?
It's devastation. I don't know how much the nature can restore itself, for how long.
I was really deeply affected by what I saw in the Amazon. I think it's a tragedy, and I don't think the international community is doing enough. I don't want to be looking my grandkids in the eye one day and telling them that we didn't do anything.
What happens to the climate world is by far the most important story that we will ever work on.
Now more than ever, the story of climate change, of what we as humans are doing to the world around us, is the responsibility of all of us to tell.
There will be wars over water, there will be wars about development, there will be wars about resources declining because of the environment. And it's a slow drift towards what looks like the tipping point, where you just simply can't save places like the Amazon or even the Pantanal.